let's so so this is a industrial project we have in west of Ukraine, for which we did the drawings. You see our logo is there, so I won't reveal who it is, but it's a case where this company has expansion investment, which isn't so frequent. It's private money invested in Ukraine to expand. So it's a company that is somewhere between light industry and heavy industry. So just to give you an idea of what we do, so it's an extension of a plant. So it happens that Watzenrode, the construction company, has been awarded after the construction. So right now, Watzenrode is doing the construction of this on the plans, on the drawings of Egis Ertle Engineering. It isn't a setup that we have all the time. It isn't a setup we have all the time. It depends. But in this case, we are working together on this one project. So it's specifically an industrial building. So I'll just show you the 3D part, which is the most fun, so to say. Again, fun for me, might not be fun for you, but it gives you an idea of what we do. Okay, so Western Ukraine, it's happening now. We have other projects for design part of industrials that are expanding. It happens, but they're really starting now, and they're very what will be they're approaching it very calmly. They're not full force investing. If we go to now a second project. Oh, this is one which is Ivankov. This is a project we're doing. Actually, this is a turnkey project. This is Watzenrode subcontracting to Egis Ertle Engineering. It's Ivankov. We're doing on a turnkey basis the system of water supply of the village. So the client is Ivankov Vodokanal. So we signed with a para-public entity, municipality, and it is financed by international donor, which is called NEFCO, which is a Nordic fund, which is green oriented. So we have several contracts going out with this NEFCO fund. So these are drawings of how the piping will develop in the streets of Ivankov. We have a very similar project in a town called Dimer, very similar for the same NEFCO, signing with the Dimer Vodokanal. Dimer is also in the northwestern part of Kiev region. These were towns that are occupied during spring last year and deoccupied at the end of March. Going a little bit further, this is a project we have is a town also in that region of that part of the Kiev region, northwest. So I just understand from this presentation, it might seem that all the money is going to the northwest of the Kiev region. Well, I don't know. That's pretty much where everything is happening right now. I mean, lots of things are happening indeed. So this project is quite actual because we had it approved last week. We passed expertise last week, and it's going to go on the construction permit in the following weeks. So this is a project where we're working for the new agency of Reconstruction, where we have a direct contract and no international donor that is financing it. So it's a little bit specific. This is something you shouldn't try alone at home or not at your first time. So we're here since a long time. So it's kind of things we can do, kind of risk we can take. So you see this on this picture there, we have a residential building that was not massively damaged. You see one or two parts where there are some impacts from sharp nail on the ceiling. So it wasn't a building that was massively damaged, But it was one of the buildings that was here you have see some picture of damages. It's one of the buildings that was chosen to be reconstructed, and the reconstruction implies that we need to upgrade the building towards norms that are up to date. So we will need to do not only repair the damages from the war, but also change all the windows, do heat insulation, do an access for invalids. So these reparation pull a general update of these structures towards contemporary regulation. So again, this was just validated. I'll just give you a view of the new facade a little bit further. So this is how it's going. So these are social buildings. This is nothing very sexy, but this is the kind of thing that is being redesigned now, and there's 5 of them. So we expect to have quite a big set of such buildings because they're quite similar. Quite a big set following up the completions of this task. We don't know yet if you want to construct this because it's a massive headache with all the people living inside because they're going to stay inside when the reconstruction is going to happen. But anyways, for the design part, it's more or less okay. And for us, it's interesting in general matter to start collaborating with the agency of renovation. Okay, so that was this was the short presentation of Egis Ertle producing these drawings. Now let's go to see Watzenrode. So Watzenrode, the construction company. So he'll have an idea of a little bit of what Watzenrode does. So this is before. This is a cement terminal for an Irish company called CRH, which has been rebranded to Cimark. It's a very good client. So the project was 80 or between 70 and 80% completed when we went in the war. So it was stopped from February to the summer. It was restarted again in the summer. It was a decision that this investor made to finalize this investment. This terminal is, as I said, a cement terminal, so it's going to receive by rail cement. It's going to be packed and sent throughout the Kiev region in the future. So right now, we're again, these pictures are very exciting for me. So I'm going to pass it quite quickly. It just gives you an idea. And again, exciting for me because it's my job. Like, I don't know, audited balance sheet would be excited for Grégoire. Well, this is exciting. It just gives you a sense of what we do. So again, this is Kiev region. This is Kiev region. This is how this was just before the war. This was just before the war, being commissioned now. So this is heavy industry. This is a heavy industry project. And we just have like films to give an idea. I obviously we're not going to watch them because we're not on Netflix, you know, and it's going to be really boring for everybody. But here is basically an example of a project that's just being commissioned now. After the war started, we were awarded. In July in Gostomel, we were awarded a tent by bombings. So you see the type of problems they had, which is very tough. So their big issue was that they had lots of equipment, lots of process equipment, which was costing millions and millions of dollars that they needed to protect before the winter. This is emergency investment. Most of this emergency investments are over and the work around emergency investment are done. So you see the roof was destroyed partially, so we needed to reconstruct and the structure and the roof. This was how the plant was looking. This, again, pictures of demolition. This is one of our managers, Alexander, taking notes. This is an idea of how it looked. You'll notice the roof again here destroyed. Well, this is the situation as we found it. So it's very, very tough. This is Gostomel. This is Gostomel. And so I couldn't, so we started reconstructing in the summer and we managed to cover it. So the client had his equipment protected from the rain and the snow, so we could save the equipment and start to think about restarting his plant. Okay. Okay, so this is UNDP. So UNDP, so it's a northwestern part of Kiev. There was villages that were destroyed, and there was 140 houses that we needed to demolish. So, okay, we were, by the way, from now and then we're finding some things like this. This is after this is things we find even after the demining passes. And again, we're finding from now and then bombs. Now and then bombs after the mining operation pass. So that is Grégoire, a landscape of what we do and who we are. Do you want to make me go into details about something?
Yes, thank you very much for presenting us all this and with image and pictures, because even if we are not experts, at least it's very clear to understand to us. So we have a concrete idea of what you do. Maybe based on these different examples you presented us today, can we say that because there are some projects, if I understand correctly, that have been started before the war, some projects which are resulting from the war. In the construction, if you're a sector, the level of activity, how has it evolved? It has decreased, increased, it is stable?
Well, generally, it decreased a lot last year. Obviously, it was pretty much stopped in the first months. The thing is that right now it's starting again, but it's really transforming. It's transforming in the nature of the clients. So we had say a wave of emergency works that happened. Now works that couldn't make. So people found the money, whether it be to protect their equipment, to reconstruct the roof, or whatever emergency situation they're facing. So this is behind us mostly. Right now there is still some investment. Transfer investments, I would say, people that are moving their plants to a safer place. This happens in the private sector. We have that. We have quite well, not much active expansion investments as we would have in 2021. But the new nature of the market for us is that the multilateral funds are coming in, and really somewhere this summer, money started to hit the ground. I mean, the tender started to be awarded. You know, we're still a little bit waiting for that money, you know, but we're already invoicing. So they are by nature quite slow in payment terms. But basically, they started really tendering in end of winter, springtime, and while they're checking from every angle possible the tender, the candidates, 6 months later they awarded, and it started to be awarded this summer. So since the summer we have picked up a lot of those tenders, but it's a little bit of a new nature. So we were rather private client based, and now we're becoming a multilateral fund oriented, or by the way, national funds. We also have a contract for a German fund. So it's just the nature is changing, because there's the good news is that these tenders are quite transparent in nature. So it usually is the best offer that wins. They're the little bit bad news, good news for us, but bad news for our competitors is that the criteria are quite high. So that excludes a lot of people. I mean, a lot of companies that were competing against us before. But the bad news is that they're very slow. They're very slow in taking the decision. They're actually too slow. So it's rather bad news for the final beneficiary of these investments.
Okay, understood, clear. Staying on this relationship with multilateral organizations. So actually, this is a scheme like in the project you presented us for Ivan Kiev Vodokanal. This is a project that involves three parts.
Yes.
The municipality, the multilateral organization, and yourself.
Yes.
Could you give us, tell us, for this kind of projects, first, what are the advantage and challenge working with this organization? You mentioned already the speed of the project, but what are the other elements? And also, practically, how do you find this project?
Okay, so in the specific case of NEFCO, it's a specific case because all of them have different approaches. All of them have different approaches. These multilateral funds, which is normal. All clients have their own preferred manner of awarding contracts and signing contracts. So in these cases, the signing part of the client, the project owner, so to say, will be the local company, the local water supply company. So we're signing with the water supply company. The tender is not at all done by the local supply company. It's done directly by NEFCO. Okay, so they start the tender, they lead it, they ask all the question, and they award it. And the Ivanko Vodokanal or Dime Vodokanal, whatever municipality, doesn't have a word to say. Actually, they will work with the company that will award it. So we sign a contract with this para-public organization, and actually a strange contract, which obviously are quite new in Ukraine, where we have, even if it's two Ukrainian entities, we have a euro contract and we receive euros. These are also hard currency contracts. So everybody loves hard currency in Ukraine. These are hard currency contracts and receive even hard currency. These are VAT. They're contracts without VAT also because they're registered as donation. So we're still they're signed. We start to work. We didn't put an invoice yet, so we do not have an assessment of the speed of payment and the routine of the payment. Also the difficult part is that they want to be bonded. So we need to place a bond for the advance payment. And in this case, they also want a performance bond. So this is a little bit technicalities in the contractual world of construction, which might not ring a bell to everybody. But from the construction company point of view, it's a little bit difficult to set up because it's a lot of conversation with banks that do not consider the construction industry as being the very, very safe one or very desirable one for their instruments. So, okay, this is something that should be easy for an international player. The only thing that these contracts are still fairly small. They're million, 2, 3, 4, 5, go up to 8. Under 10, which will be the level, 10 will be more or less the level where like medium-sized companies from the Western world will start to take interest in a contract in Ukraine. That's more or less it. So we're under 10 million each time. So there's no much interest from international players yet.
Okay, so you don't have that much local competitors.
I don't. Yeah.
And for international one, it might come, but
not yet. It will come, but not
yet.
yet. Not yet. Really, we expect to see some coming over 10 million and a lot over 50. But pretty much there's a lot of bids that are placed in the range of several $1 million, several millions, rather under 10.
Understood. You mentioned that from this multilateral organization or national organization donors, there are more and more tenders coming in. How do you search for them? How do you find the different projects? And do you use also, we have seen in former webinars, the different tools and agencies. So we talked about Dreams, which is not implemented yet, but there is also Advantage. Do you use this tool, or what is your method to find out the projects?
Well, no, I don't. We don't use Advantage Ukraine, but as far as I understand, it's more oriented towards the investor and not towards the service provider, as we are. Usually, you can find them on their site. These are very open tenders. From time to time, there's pre-qualification phase. They're very open tenders. Just need to understand what are the multilateral funds or national funds that are active in the country, and you can apply. It's very transparent. It's very transparent. Really concerning UNDP, which was the pictures of what you saw. Really, after we were awarded the tender, only then we understood that only then we managed to talk to a real human being. Before that, it was all done by a system, an online system, which each time changes, depending on who is the organizer of the tender. So it isn't necessary to have like a very developed, deep network. It's very public. They are really very public, these tenders. I mean, except for the agency of renovation, this network is very useful. But for all the multilaterals and for all the internationals, we have a very, very open tender system.
Okay.
Which is by the way great for companies as us, because we're in our and international players, because corruption isn't in our DNA. So we really can develop when we work on a basis of best proposal is awarded, and the best proposal meaning technical and financial and nothing else. So it's very, very good for companies as ours and the future companies that will come here, when the size of the tender will create interest.
Understood. Thank you for this. It clarifies. Actually, we have a question, but you partly answered it. The question is, what are the biggest differences between working on projects with multilateral involvement and purely local ones?
Well, the purely local ones, look, when you don't have corruption problems in the purely local ones, you face another issue, that is they're really engineered, so to say, in a manner that only local companies can answer, and it's the difficulties in the relations locally will really make it pretty much impossible for companies that are not totally Ukrainian based to answer. These are cases like with the Borodyanka renovation of these buildings that we didn't decide. We need to re-sign the contract 5 times because they decided to change 5 times the contract, which is more or less no news when you work in Ukraine, but it's totally not understandable. You cannot explain that to a Western company with totally crazy unlimited responsibility clauses, with stupid clauses like they pay whenever they get money from the government, things that just make it unsignable by anybody who comes from, say, a more developed economy, because those kinds of contracts don't really exist anymore. So this it's that's a difficult part. That's a difficult part. Again, this agency is really starting. They have fired half of what they built themselves on, and trying to reemploy other people. So obviously they're not at all fine-tuned on their procedures. We don't really know what direction it's going to take. If the organization is going to get better, if it's going to get worse, or what is going to be the general tendency. I suspect they'll gain in efficiency. I'm not sure they're going to gain in transparency. I hope they will. I'm not so sure. But it's a little bit difficult to for an international company to work. And by the way, there is also financial risk. So we also take these contracts because we can take the hit if ever there's payment issues. So it's and we do it really because strategically for us it's important to have them as clients.
Okay, so clearly there is a question of mindset, and
well, I wouldn't call it. It might have sounded negative. It's a description. It's just the way things, they like to work the way they do. Even if corruption might not be involved, because it's not always the case. It really is not all the case. There is some kind of a, I don't know, I will call it, but in a friendly way, Ukrainian style mess that makes it really difficult to manage if you're an international company working in different settings. But from the moment the contracts will get big, obviously they'll need to change.
Which make it very important to come and to be present on site to understand these particularities. I understand also that from what you said that there is a lack of resource and skills in the communities to define the specifications they need, or to design the project, or to prepare it.
No, we have a general issue, is that as you said, as you might have heard, I'm talking a lot about the northwestern part of the Kiev region, which for some reason has attracted a lot of help. So we are more or less demanded to get all the technical information from the local municipal employees, which are not used to such a density of work, which were being paid quite lowly before the war, and had a work rhythm that was as low as they were getting paid. And suddenly they have a lot of pressure to find answer and push things, and they have a level of solicitation that has escalated. So they're just leaving. So we just have an issue to find the information, because locally there is this very situational crisis, so to say, that people are leaving and they need to employ new ones. Information is being lost. Where is this pipe running? How is this? How is the electricity going in the house? This is, but it's situational. I mean, it's maybe too much in the details, but yeah, this is the difficulties, the like work issues we have, that we work our way, we work around them somehow.
Understood. This is clear. We have another question. What is the situation with workforce? Is it a challenge to find workers during the present time?
Yeah, I see. And it's a question from Carlos, which is a big employer of labor. Yeah, no, we don't have an issue right now. Yet. So indeed, I know where the question is. The question is going. It's just lots of there's mobilization, and we're a traditionally masculine sector. So yes, lots of labor at the beginning of the war, and lots of them went voluntarily, by the way, to the army. Right now, most of the people that had an appetite for the army are already in the army, and we have the ones that do not want to go that are remaining. So at this moment, yes, generally there's less labor, but they cannot leave the country. And generally speaking, the intensity of construction site has fallen. So for the moment, we don't have an issue to find labor, and we can find it quite easily. And we do not have an issue with the salary, because we're going to understand there's going to be an issue. It could happen from a lack of labor or from an increase in construction activity. We'll feel the salaries. We'll feel the salaries going up. It's going to happen very fast. For the moment, it hasn't happened, so we do not have too much an issue. What we have in our industry is mostly with the middle management. It was always difficult to find people that were meeting our criteria, so that remains. But okay, it's our job to work around those issues.
Okay, this is more a question for later on to be anticipated.
Exactly. But it is going to be a question in the future. It is going to be a question in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. We have another question. I don't know if you see it. I saw that there were lots of damages you have dealt with. This means that you had to do a lot of cleaning in the community. How was the issue of construction waste solved? In particular, I am interested in the issue of asbestos. Were there any obligations in the contract about this?
Yeah, well, so generally speaking, Ukraine is rather on the paper there is obligations to treat construction waste. They are legal requirements. In practice, it isn't really respected by anybody. In our specific case, with the United Nations, it was contractualized that the asbestos needed to be all the structures with asbestos needed to be deconstructed with a very high level of protection of the labor, and we needed to send them to be treated and document that treatment. So specifically for the United Nations, this is an issue they care about a lot, and contractualize our obligation. So we do it for the United Nations. The thing is that the other damages we had, there was no really asbestos. The asbestos is really not too much used in industrial buildings anymore. And we didn't need to, it was really the only case we had specific asbestos in the United Nations. And that is really very toughly contractualized by that project owner.
If we extend the question of Olga, more generally regarding sustainability, because this is something we speak a lot in terms of reconstruction, to go to rebuild better, etc. You today, do you see where do we stand regarding this topic?
Well, absolutely nowhere. There is no appetite for that on the ground. They have other emergencies. Globally, it's more, I would describe more as a fantasy of Western donors than a reality that I see on the ground. The only thing is that, as was the case of the Borodianka building, once we push a reconstruction that needs to go through a construction permit, we need to go through an expertise, and the expertise the design must respect the norms at today's date. And at today's date, the norms, even with the war, without the war, were they had embedded thermal efficiency, as I said, invalid access, and features that you'll see incorporated in developed countries. There's lots of buildings out there that are very old and not not reconstructed by, and will not be reconstructed without funding, yeah, will not be, and won't stay a little bit outdated. But it isn't a major on the ground. No, everybody's not thinking every day about it. The emergency, when the emergency is to get electricity, to get heating, obviously you don't care about just how carbon free your electricity is going to arrive. You know, it's just
No, I was not thinking to be zero emission free or things like that. But in your project in Borodyanka, you mentioned that you are rebuilding better than it used to be to meet the requirement in terms of isolation, etc.
yeah.
So what you do is exactly in line, of course, with the Ukrainian legislation. Is the Ukrainian legislation in this regard far from the EU legislation or not? We will have to update again.
No, it's pretty
EU, or it's already integrated now.
There could be like debates between experts, but there was really a tendency to align on European Union regulations. So it isn't so distant. It isn't so distant.
Okay.
What was constructed newly in Ukraine was pretty efficient. It was just, by the way, a money thing. They just wanted to pay the less for the gas and the electricity. So it's driven by economy. It isn't even driven by the how to say the hand of the lawmaker. It's really driven by economy.
Okay. And for instance, you had a project with NEFCO, which is the Nordic Green Bank, which has developed a program for Ukraine, which is called Green Recovery.
Yeah.
So again, this is just to be online with the current norms, not to do some extra, if I may say so.
Well, the thing, they have different types of contracts and they have different approaches. So we have water supply right now. So obviously the water supply is being designed and constructed now. So obviously it's going to respect the norms as of today, the Ukrainian norms as of today. We do not have specific demands of them that override override the Ukrainian norms. Right now we don't have it. We're passing from a very bad water supply system or unexistent one in Dimer and Ivankov, those two villages, to one that is going to meet today's standards. So just that in itself, it's a progress.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. Good. Another question is about energy supply. Do you have any difficulties with energy supply on your projects because of the lack of energy all over the country?
No, not up to date. No, but we're not consuming electricity as a big plant does. We have a partial, our consumption if it's leveled is quite low on the construction. There's peaks, but it's quite low. There's no nighttime because of nighttime. So we didn't have any issues, and we have lots of generators also. So we're equipped. So we have
okay.
Again, we have managed this issue. So
on a topic for the winter to come.
Exactly, possibly.
Another question again between the difference between international project and the local one. Do you think strong multinational involvement will eventually change how contracts are written in Ukraine? Or do you think a business, local and international company will keep looking like two different worlds?
This is a tricky question. The thing is that we have the contractuality abroad is quite standardized. I mean, not everywhere, but in France, the contracts are very standardized. There's really two big construction contracts, and everybody has more or less the same approach contractually. And in other developers, they're very standardized. There are no construction standards in Ukraine. Absolutely, every client is imagining his own contract. After he needs to find a construction company that is willing to sign under that. Is it good? Is it bad? It's just the way it is. So for big funded multilaterally international projects, yes, it's going to be international contracts to which international companies are used, to which we start to be used. Is it gonna will they have ramification lower on the market? Maybe, maybe not, but I wouldn't qualify the lack of contractual standards in Ukraine as some kind of massive problem to be solved. It's just the way this market works. It doesn't create more problems than that. So I wouldn't qualify as a big issue to be dealt with.
Understood. I wanted to ask you. So yes, I see we have a
very long question.
This is more an information than a question. Okay. I have another question, two other questions on my side. For foreign investors in Ukraine, there are two key questions. One of them is how to deal with corruption. So you are working with international donors. We are working with municipalities. What have you seen, or have you seen something, or what is your vision?
No, but I saw a lot of things. I saw a lot of things. Yeah, I saw a lot. But obviously it exists in Ukraine. But the thing is that the nature of the funding and it's from where it comes, its origin is of such that it's going to be easier to work in a compliant way than it was before. And really, it's really one of the reasons why we're growing now, because we're dealing with tenders that award basically the best offer. Again, best meaning technically the best and financially the best. So I wouldn't. I mean, if the target is international multilateral funds, I wouldn't worry too much. If the target is working with Ukrainian municipalities, well, for me that's not a business plan. First of all, and that might be that might be a little bit more difficult. But there is you can more and more you'll be able to work in Ukraine without making a trade-off between compliance and business. So you'll be able to conduct a compliant style of business in the construction industry more and more in the future. So I think it shouldn't be something that removes or forbids somebody to deploy in Ukraine.
Okay, important information. Yeah, good. Thank you. Do you have a project related to restoration of power system and electrical grids in Ukraine in your current portfolio or in your plans?
Well, yeah, we have some small projects, but again, to be honest, it is led by. Well, this is a tricky part. This is tricky. The power grid system, it's a little bit tricky. It's financed. It's state financed. It's state finance, so it's a little bit closed. We have never figured out how to get into this on an interesting scale. We had every now and then some contracts, but nothing massive because it's a little bit closed. Yeah, this is a little bit tricky. This is a trickier sector. You might be the impression that all construction works as one market. There are sub markets actually in the construction, and this is one of the sub markets, let's say. And you're inside or not fully inside. So the answer is rather no. Is rather no.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned and you showed us also some example with private sector clients.
Yes.
Have you observed any industry-specific trends in this area? some companies scaling down their operation while others are expanding, or?
No, the companies that are already here try to maintain their operation, but they're not the ones that are expanding are quite rare. We have several examples, but they're quite rare, and the projects are quite small. I mean, the projects out of heavy OPEX, let's say the real CapEx and not emergency CapEx or not recovery CapEx, are not very frequent. It's right now the market is rather driven by international funds, in my understanding, and by the state.
Okay. Okay, good. This is to come. Maybe there is no more question. It's already 12. So maybe as a conclusion, what would be your recommendation and your advice for the French business to focus on if they are interested in the reconstructions projects in Ukraine?
Well, my advice would be, so just listen, you need to listen carefully, because you'll need to give me some kilojoules of brain power here to follow up. So we're going to do some mathematics, just very short mathematics. So the construction market in Ukraine was in 2021 250 billion hryvnias. So that's about $10 million. As a reference, the construction market in France the same year is 250 billion euros. Okay, so 25 times larger. Okay, the market's different size is not so important. Maybe in the long term it's going to go. It's not so important. So the thing is that most of you certainly heard the figure of 300 billion or 700 billion and crazy figures for the reconstruction. So nobody really understands what is behind these figures. If we make the assumption that, say, it's going to be $500 billion, and if, let's say, it's going to be done on 10 years, that's an average of $50 billion per year. That's 5 times the construction market that was in Ukraine before the war. That's 5 times. It's very significant. So does it mean that all the companies in Ukraine will go and grow 5 times? Well, difficult to make a consensus, because there's going to be new companies, small companies opening up, international companies coming. But basically, it's going to happen what happens in France. Some companies are going to beat the market, and some companies are going to be under the market. Like, in France, when you have a 3% growth, maybe not 3%, 1.5% growth, some companies beat the market and some companies are beaten by the market. And there's no consensus in France to forecast which company is going to beat the market and which company is not going to beat the market. Looking backwards is always easy, like a young team or management methods that are really adapted or product, whatever. Looking back, everything is easy. But there's no consensus to understand what company will beat the market in France. Some things that are very easy in France are very complicated in Ukraine, but from time to time, you have easy things in Ukraine that are complicated in France. And if this is complicated in France, to understand who will beat the market in Ukraine is very easy. There's a very strong and robust predictor of who is going to beat the market and beat the 5 times growing market. It's whoever is financially sound and has a stable footprint in the economy. So it's a very simple and robust predictor that you have. It's going to beat a market that's going to grow 5 times. So it's actually very simple to understand. So this is something that that whoever is interested in Ukraine needs to think about. And it's a great way to, select a partner or a client or a supplier or an investment target, whatever the business situation of the person is. So it's maybe, this is as maybe a final word, but this is a great thing coming. What I observe, me who is on the ground, is that it's starting really now for us. So it's really a good time to start not thinking about it, but rather acting, because it's really better to be a little bit early than to be a little bit late in this specific situation. Right now, we don't still understand the ramification of what is happening to us business-wise now, but we know we're going to be very, very huge, as would say an American politician. So anyways, the thing is, better come now, better acting now, because really it's better to be slightly early than a little bit late.
I think that there could not be a better conclusion than that. The reconstruction, this is now, and even I would add one thing: it's better to come,
Yeah,
come and visit.
come.
So
Physically, yeah.
to join the delegation that we are organizing very soon. Ignace, a big thank you for this very clear and illustrated message.
Thank you, everybody.
A lot of point. So thanks to you. Thank you, everyone, for joining and listening and asking questions. That was very interesting. And see you very soon. Wish you all a good day.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.